You know, what if the divine didn't show up with a clap of thunder or some big dramatic sign? What if it just whispered to you on a completely normal morning? That's the amazing idea at the heart of the story we're getting into today. A song that says, hey, this isn't fiction, this is a true story about something sacred showing up in the middle of everyday life.
So right from the get-go, the source material is very clear about this. This isn't meant to be a metaphor or just some nice, fuzzy story. We're being asked to really consider this as something that actually happened, a moment where the sacred just stepped right into the ordinary, and it was impossible to miss.
So how does a story like this even start? Well, you can forget about any grand visions or bolts of lightning. This whole thing kicks off with a really small, quiet act of kindness way before the sun even came up.
Okay, so picture this. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The narrator's daughter just gets this idea to make these simple, lovely little cards with hearts and birds on them. And the message is just, good day. That's it. They leave them outside like a little anonymous gift of kindness for whoever happens to find them.
Now, fast forward just a few hours, and that little act of kindness, it's about to come back around in a way that feels, well, anything but random. This is the part of the story where things start to feel a little magical.
What's so cool is how specific the story is. It's grounded in real time, so at 3 a.m., the cards get made. By 7:30, the narrator is just walking down an alley. And literally 1 minute later, a super simple moment is about to change the entire day.
The narrator walks by a teenager who's just sitting there, tying his shoes. Nothing special. But then the teen looks up and very softly says, Bonne journée, which, of course, is French for good day. The exact same message from those cards, just hours before.
And boom, in that 1 second, everything just shifts. It's not a thought, it's a feeling, an immediate, deep knowing. The source calls it a secret thread that suddenly becomes visible, connecting everything. This was not a coincidence. Something else was going on.
And that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, people say hello or have a good day all the time. So why did this one greeting feel like a message from a whole other reality? What made this one simple moment so incredibly powerful?
Well, the final piece of the puzzle, that big aha moment that makes it all make sense, doesn't actually happen until the next morning. It comes as a message that reveals what the source calls a beautiful, holy dance.
So here's how all the dots connect. You have the daughter's cards, then you have the teen's identical greeting. And finally, the narrator hears this familiar voice, a master named Adamus, who drops the final piece of info. The day all this happened, it was his birthday. And suddenly, it all just clicks.
I just love the narrator's reaction here. It's not fear, it's not shock, it's this incredibly warm, familiar, almost like a playful, oh, it was you. It's a moment of connection, described as grace just pouring out, like morning honey. It feels more like a reunion than some big, scary revelation.
Okay, so this brings up a really interesting question. Who exactly are these masters the story keeps talking about? Well, the way they're presented is not at all what you might expect. They're shown as being super approachable, almost human.
So, meet the crew. You've got Adamus Saint-Germain, or just St. Joe, Koot Humilal Singh, who goes by Cootie, and Sam, or Toby. The source gives them these nicknames on purpose, to kind of strip away all the old, dusty mythology and show them as accessible friends, not these distant, untouchable figures. And this is where the story really asks us to flip the script on how we think about the divine. The old myth is all about beings in robes and halos living in far-off temples. The reality presented here? It's divinity that ties its own shoelaces, that rides the bus, that walks totally unnoticed, right here among us.
So this really gets us to the absolute heart of the whole story. The big takeaway, the main message, is that the sacred isn't out there somewhere. It's woven right into the fabric of our normal, everyday lives.
So how can that even be possible? Well, the source defines these masters not as physical people like you and me, but as pure consciousness. And because they're not limited by our ideas of time and space, they can literally be anywhere and everywhere. But here's the key part. They are always near, if we allow it. So where do we look for these moments? Not on some remote mountaintop. It's about paying attention to what's right in front of us. It could be in the unexpected smile from a stranger, the sound of a bird, or, a whispered bonne journée on a perfectly normal morning. And that's how the story wraps up. It's not just a recap of what happened, it's really a direct invitation to you, to all of us, to start listening to our lives in a whole new way.
Throughout the entire song, you hear this sound of a bird call. It's woven in and out like a recurring theme, and it's a symbol for what the source calls love made real. It's the sound of heaven's door opening up. It's this constant, gentle nudge to just listen. So how do we find them? Well, according to this story, it's not about searching really hard. It's more about creating a certain kind of space inside yourself. It's about being open, about having trust, about moving with a sense of grace. It's about letting your own kindness ripple out into the world, like those little cards, and then just listening for the echo.
So in the end, this whole story doesn't really give us a set of rules to follow. It just leaves us with a question to take with us into our own lives. After hearing all this, where might you find the divine in your day? What small, ordinary moment might be waiting for you to reveal something absolutely extraordinary?